Have you always wished that you could play a monk who could use heavy weapons but still punch and kick? If so, I've got good news and bad news. Bad news is it's really difficult to make it work without a little help from some homebrew or third parties. The good news is my favorite dudes, Kelly and Monty, made a subclass designed just to do this very thing. And today, we're going to make a build for it. Welcome to D4. Hey everybody, so here at D4, each week I take a deep dive into specific character builds for my favorite role-playing games. Usually that means D&D. I like to crunch numbers about them, theorycraft about them, not so that I can tell you like the right way or the best way to play a certain character, but to explore one potential way of building something with the hopes of creating a character that's both really powerful, but also really fun to play. So if you enjoy creating characters for your favorite role-playing games almost as much as you enjoy playing the actual game itself, or if you're just looking for tips or ideas on how to build something that you're thinking about playing, then welcome home. This is where you belong, and I'm so glad you're here, so thank you for watching. My name's Colby. So, right, many moons ago, I made a trip out to Toronto to hang out with the Dungeon Dudes, Kelly and Monty. While there, we recorded a couple of videos on some of their new player options from their very excellent 5e compatible Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakkenheim book. Namely, a video about the Apothecary class, which you can watch here on the Dungeon Dudes channel, and the Way of the Arcane Hand Monk subclass, which we put out on my channel, and you can watch right here. Now, a few months ago, the dudes put out a video on what if everyone plays a monk, right? They've done this series of videos where like, what if everybody plays class X in a party? It was a great video. Check that one out here. And in that video, they talked about how there doesn't seem to be a way to let monks really benefit from using a heavy weapon and still get their most important monk features, right? And then they said this.
Is have a turtle monk that wields a greatsword and takes Great Weapon Master and can hit people with their sword and then still kick them. Like, let us know if you found a way to do this.
And Colby, if you're watching this video, you can come on back here and help us build a heavy weapon using monk, because somehow I just assume that you're going to have a way to do it.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said in the intro, right? Good news and bad news. Bad news, no, I don't really think there's a way to make it work. And that makes me feel bad. I feel like I have failed you. I mean, obviously you could use a heavy weapon on a monk and take the Great Weapon Master feat, but at the end of the day, doing so would prevent you from really taking advantage of most of the things that you want to be a monk for. And most importantly, damage-wise, no martial arts features. And in that case, you'd be playing a monk just because you wanted to be a D&D hipster, right? And do something suboptimal in the name of character concept. Which, hey, if that's your thing, then you should totally do it. I myself have created a plethora of character builds and videos around that kind of just concept first thing, right? But from a mechanics perspective, you would be better off going fighter or barbarian, etc., if you wanted to use a heavy weapon. But here is the good news. Kelly and Monty, having identified this problem, made another monk subclass for that book, The Way of the Serpent, that was specifically designed to fulfill this heavy weapon using monk fantasy. And I figured, with the 2024 rules on the horizon, where the Great Weapon Master feat has been nerfed fairly heavily, now is the time to finally fulfill my promise to Kelly and Monty and take up their challenge and build a heavy weapon using monk by using their own Drakkenheim subclass, The Way of the Serpent. Now, for those of you who don't know about this whole Drakkenheim business, D&D Beyond has officially incorporated the first of their Drakkenheim books, The Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which is an awesome adventure set in the dude's homebrew world, and Sebastian Crow's Guide to Drakkenheim is their second book. This is the one that's filled with a lot of new player options, among other things. You can purchase both books, by the way, either in PDF or hardcover format online, and I will put a link in the video description to get you there. But Sebastian Crow's is not yet incorporated into D&D Beyond, sadly. That said, considering how much third-party content D&D Beyond is incorporating these days, and how awesome the Dungeon Dudes are, and the fact that there's already Drakkenheim content in D&D Beyond, I would be absolutely shocked if we didn't get Sebastian Crow's player options available there sooner or later. Though I've not heard any kind of official anything from anyone confirming that. It's just what my gut tells me. Okay, you ready to jump in? I proudly present D&D Build number 174, The Way of the Serpent Monk. Huge thanks to my good friend Randall Hampton for the fantastic artwork that he put out for this build. He does this every week. He's a fantastic artist. If you'd be interested in following him to check out the other stuff that he's done, or potentially reaching out to see if you could commission him to create some artwork for your character or even your entire party, I will put links in the video description as always on how to do so. Also, I'm super excited to again have World Anvil as a sponsor for the video this week. For those of you who don't know, World Anvil is the ultimate all-in-one software for tabletop gamers, but also fantasy novelists and anyone who loves creative world building. World Anvil is not just one tool, it is 3 complete creative tool sets: a world building suite, an RPG campaign manager, and even a novel writing and publishing tool. For gamers, World Anvil is the ultimate RPG campaign manager. It's got interactive maps and tools to help you build an original setting for D&D, Pathfinder, and more than 45 other tabletop role-playing games. And they're constantly adding new ones. You can keep essential lore and stats all within one quick click for fast, hassle-free prep and immersive gaming sessions. There are over 2 million game masters currently using World Anvil for their games, and once you become familiar with the system, you'll figure out why. But for writers, and I don't talk about this much, World Anvil is not just a writing software, it's a novel planner and world building app with features like family trees, mind mapping, and plot templates based on proven storytelling methods. You can finish that novel in World Anvil. And with publishing, subscription, and monetization tools, you can build your fan base. Writer's Digest even listed World Anvil as one of the best websites for writers. It's great for GMs, it's great for players, so please do yourself a favor and go check out World Anvil, you guys. Sign up for a free account, if nothing else, to see what you might be missing. When you do, I would appreciate it if you would use this URL here so they know I sent you. I will put a link in the video description as well and as a pinned comment. And yeah, best of all, if you decide to pick up a yearly subscription, which I bet you're going to want to do, use the code D4 at checkout and you will save over half on the price. 51%. Yeah, that's crazy. So huge thanks to World Anvil. Really appreciate your guys' support. You're awesome. And let's jump into the build. So at level 1 for our starting class, no, we're not going fighter. That would be ridiculous. This is supposed to be a monk build. Thus, we're starting barbarian. I know, yes, this is going to be a Serpent Monk build, and it will be, I promise. But we've got 2 things that we really want from Barbarian, and it's just going to make sense in that case to start as Barbarian, but I'll get into why as we go. Is this my first Barbarian Monk build? No. The Monk Tank took some Ancestral Guardian levels. Check that out there. And then there's the Tasmanian Devil build as well. Here, do I have any cards left? Am I already at 5? You know how long that took me to find out, by the way, which of my builds in the past went Barbarian Monk? Like 2 seconds, thanks to the new table of contents that I've created. It's so dang handy. If you didn't know about it, I link to it in the video description of every video. So go check it out. You can search by class, subclass, get a little synopsis of what the build's supposed to do, even a hyperlink to the video itself. So if you're trying to figure out which of my old videos to watch, that's the place to go. Anyways, as for our race, soon to be species. Oh, I gotta get that in my brain. Yeah, we're going custom lineage. Get it before it's gone. Old Faithful, we want a free feat here. And, of course, if you are building this character with the 2024 PHB rules, then you're gonna get a free feat with your background. And no reason then to take custom lineage. But if we're going with 2014 rules, custom lineage is great because not only could you make your character be like, I don't know, a half turtle, half human or something, so you can be like a ninja turtle, but it would also let us get a free feat. It doesn't have to be an origin feat, which is a new thing with the new player's handbook, right? I'm going to be talking about that a lot today, as close as we are to the release. But yeah, so for our free feat, we're going to take Great Weapon Master here. And even though we can't get that if we're using 2024 rules because it's not an origin feat, now here's the question. Why not Polearm Master instead of Great Weapon Master for our free feat here? Wouldn't we rather have a free bonus action attack? We don't, actually, but we'll discuss why in a minute. For now, Great Weapon Master is going to let us add 10 damage to our weapon attacks using heavy weapons at the cost of a -5 to hit, and it also gives us a bonus bonus action attack with that heavy weapon if we kill a target or crit on our turn. And yeah, 10 extra damage is a lot. As for our starting abilities, I assume we go the point buy method as always and say, let's take a 14 strength and then our +2 from custom lineage there, a 14 dexterity, a 14 constitution, and a 13 wisdom. That's right, we are making a strength-based monk. I think it makes the most sense for this subclass, and I'll get into why a little later. And yes, having only a 13 wisdom is a bit of a bummer. It means that our stunning strike, for example, will be sticking even less often than usual, among other things, but I do think it's the best move for this build. As for our equipment, all we really need on this character is our weapon, a glaive or a halberd. As a barbarian, we can actually use it right now, but later as a monk, if we want to also kick stuff with our bonus action, we won't be able to use it until we get to monk 3. So maybe consider grabbing a quarterstaff here as well to use from characters 2 through 4, right? Otherwise, yeah, the rest of your money, buy some rations, get some torches, bedroll, put what's left in the bank, or treat your friends.
Thank you. I really needed this. I gotta treat myself.
Uh-oh, Batman's crying.
As a Barbarian 1, we get unarmored defense, and this is the main reason we wanted to start Barbarian, because, see, as a monk, we're going to want to be unarmored, right? We don't have to be, but if we want to take advantage of things like martial arts and unarmored movement, which we do, then we have to be. But I think that having a 14 constitution was more important than having a 14 wisdom, and we didn't have enough points under the point buy system anyways to get both to 14 if we wanted to start with a 16 strength and a 14 dex anyways, and we definitely want to do that. So considering that we were going to have a better constitution ability modifier than wisdom, I wanted to start Barbarian because while both monks and barbarians get unarmored defense, we're told that if we multi-class from one class into another and both of them have unarmored defense, right, then we only use the unarmored defense from our first class. And since Barbarian's unarmored defense says that our AC equals 10 plus our constitution plus our dexterity, and monk says it's 10 plus our wisdom plus our dexterity, I didn't want to be stuck with the inferior for us unarmored defense, right? Okay, so now that we're here, yeah, we realize that if we want to go unarmored, you don't have to at this level. Feel free to grab some medium armor to help you survive that infamous level 1, right? But yeah, once we want to start kicking and punching stuff, we'll have to doff that armor and we'll be stuck with a pretty meager 14 armor class, despite getting the better unarmored defense feature, right? But that's okay, because we got Rage. And with Rage, twice per day for now, as a bonus action, we enter this frenzied state that gives us 2 extra damage on strength-based weapon attacks. Yes, that includes unarmed strikes here. Thank goodness they're cleaning up that language in the new player's handbook. But it also gives us advantage on strength checks and saves, and blessedly, resistance to bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage, which is most of the damage we will likely be taking in the game. And that makes me feel a lot better about having our pretty low armor class. Before we continue, let me give a quick shout out to my channel members. You guys are so awesome. Thank you so much for all that you do for me. I truly could not do this without your support. For everybody else, I would love it if you'd consider joining the channel as a member. There's a little button down there. It says join. Memberships range from just like $1 to $5 a month and can get you access to cool things like write-ups to the cheat sheets that I create for each of these that would help you recreate the character yourself in game without having to rewatch the video, right? Access to the Discord server, access to our monthly live Q&A hangout sessions. If you don't want to or don't feel like you can support that way, that's fine though. Just being here, watching, liking, subscribing, these are all such fantastic ways to support the channel, and I'm grateful that you are just here, so thanks. Okay, at level 2, we would be a monk 1. Yes, let's start our monk level so that we can get to extra attack by our first damage report, right? This means as a monk 1, we get unarmored defense, or at least we would if we hadn't started barbarian, but again, we prefer that version over this, so I'm not sad. But then we get martial arts, and this gives us a few features, actually. It lets us use dexterity instead of strength for our monk weapon and unarmed strike hit and damage, right? We're not going to use dexterity here on this build, but then it also lets us use our martial arts die for those unarmed strikes. A d4 for now, but it goes up. And then it lets us make an unarmed strike attack as a bonus action when we take the attack action first with a monk weapon. Now, these things are all dependent upon us wielding monk weapons only and not wearing armor or a shield. So at this point, you might want to doff any armor you've been lugging around and start using that quarterstaff. Or not, honestly. I mean, doing so would make your AC worse, and you might be better off just making a single pole arm attack for now with the Great Weapon Master feat, right? Depending on the enemy AC. feel it out. At level 3, we will be a Monk 2, and that means we get unarmored movement. This gives us an extra 10 feet of move speed when we are unarmored and unshielded. More move speed is always a great thing. But then we also get Key, soon to be focus points. That's going to take some getting used to. We get 1 per monk level. They reset on a short rest and can be used for 3 things. Patient Defense, Step of the Wind. These both let us use a point to take the dodge, disengage, or dash action as a bonus action. And then Flurry of Blows, which lets us make 2 unarmed strikes as a bonus action instead of 1 when we take the attack action first, for now. And Flurry of Blows is really the main reason we decided against Polearm Master. I mean, character concept-wise, we decided against it because we wanted a character who can, like Monty said, right, swing a big weapon and kick someone on the same turn. But mechanically, it works out better for us to make 2 unarmed strikes with our bonus action instead of 1 blunt end of the weapon polearm attack, even if we have the Great Weapon Master feat, actually. Granted, we won't always have the points to use Flurry of Blows every round right now, but we should be good to do it most of the time before too long, depending on how often you get short rests at your table, especially if you're playing with the 2024 Player's Handbook. We also get dedicated weapon here, thanks to Tasha's Cauldron of Everything, but we're not going to need it, at least not next level, so I guess for this level, sure, feel free to use a longsword for a bit if you want, as this feature lets us count 1 weapon as a monk weapon, so long as we're proficient with it, and it's not heavy or special. At level 4, we would be a monk 3, and this is kind of where everything comes together for this character. First up, we get Deflect Missiles. Here's one of the many features that just get so much better with the 2024 Player's Handbook, but for now, it lets us spend our reaction when we're hit by a ranged weapon attack to reduce the damage by a d10 plus our dex modifier plus our monk level. And if we reduce it to 0, we can spend a key point to throw it back. But the most important feature for us here is our monk subclass, our monastic tradition. So we can finally embrace, yes, the Way of the Serpent. Let's read what Kelly and Monty had to say about this new subclass. Master of the Spear, this nimble warrior uses polearms not only as a weapon, but as an extension of themselves, using their weapon to amplify mobility, maneuverability, and combat. Like a snake in the grass, the Way of the Serpent hones one's abilities to predict oncoming attacks, deflect from a distance, and strike with deadly precision. So cool. So we get 2 features at level 3 from Way of the Serpent. First up, Serpent Style. This tells us that we have proficiency with the glaive, halberd, pike, trident, and similar spears and polearms, and that they count as monk weapons for us. Very nice. It specifies that wielding them doesn't limit our ability to make unarmed strikes, so maybe we're using our feet and our knees a little more, like planting the polearm and using it to swing around for a flying kick, that kind of thing. I love it. Also, even when using a quarterstaff, trident, or spear in 2 hands, right, versatile, the weapon still has reach. Very nice. We also get Serpent Spring here, which basically lets us use our pole arm as a pole vault. If we're wielding one, our jump distance is doubled, and if we spend a key point for Step of the Wind, our jump distance is tripled. And we gain advantage on our next melee weapon attack made this turn. And just in case you're wondering what our jump distance would be if we used Step of the Wind now, with a 16 strength, it would be 48 feet for a long jump, where we get at least 10-foot running start, right? 24 feet without a running start, and then 21 feet for a running high jump and 10 feet for a standing high jump. I mean, you know what? That's actually big enough to be pretty dang useful in a lot of scenarios. I love being able to pole vault. It makes total sense for a polearm expert to be able to do stuff like this. And it just adds to some of the fun speed and other movement buffs that monks innately get, right? Super fun. At level 5, we would be a monk 4. That means an ability score increase or feat, and we are going to want to bump strength here if we're primarily interested in sustained damage, which we are, taking it to an 18. We also get slow fall at this level, letting us use our reaction when we fall to reduce falling damage by 5 times our monk level. I love this feature. Please, throw me off of moderately sized cliffs and rooftops. DMs of the world, please. At level 6, we would be a monk 5, and that means we get extra attack. So now we can make 4 attacks on our turn if we've got the key for it anyways, right? 2 with our polearm and 2 with our unarmed strikes. And it adds up to a fair bit of damage. Now, we also get Stunning Strike at this level, of course, which is a really nice feature. Monks are famous for it, but it's a lot less nice if we've got a lowish wisdom score like we do. It lets us spend a key point when we hit with a melee weapon attack to try and stun our target until the end of our next turn for now, which is awesome. But they do get to make a Constitution save against our Wisdom-based DC, and that means for us, it'll probably fail more often than it succeeds. So use with caution on this build. I often forget that Tasha's gave us focused aim here too, which lets us, when we miss an attack roll, spend 1 to 3 key points to increase the attack roll by 2 for each point spent. And especially when we've got a -5 to hit, that's pretty nice. Though we do only have 5 key points at the moment. I think if we barely missed an enemy, and especially if we think that our attack will be the difference between life and death for that enemy, it's a really great thing to have. Don't forget that our martial arts die and thus unarmed strike damage goes from a D4 to a D6 at this level too. Okay, so at level 6, it is time for our first damage report. Let's talk about what combat is going to look like for us at the moment. On round 1, we'll want to rage and then make a couple of weapon attacks. Thereafter, as long as you've got the key, you'll simply make your 2 weapon attacks and then spend a key point to flurry of blows for 2 unarmed strikes. Since my threshold for considering something to be sustainable damage has always been, can we do this much damage for an entire combat encounter? And since most combat encounters at most tables tend to last 3 to 5 rounds, with 5 key points, I'll say, yeah, this is fairly sustainable. I'll add this. I'd love to assume that we have advantage on our first attack thanks to the Serpent Spring feature, but I just don't think we've got the key to sustain that and make unarmed strikes every round, unfortunately. Anyways, our weapon attacks will do a D10 plus 4 for strength, plus 10 for Great Weapon Master, plus 2 for Rage, and our unarmed strikes hit for a D6 plus 4 plus 2, right? For a grand total, if everything lands, of 2D10 plus 2D6 plus 44 damage. Whoa. And thus, against enemies with a 10 armor class, we would on average do 46 damage per round. And against a 15 armor class, it would be 30 DPR. And compared to other sustained DPR builds that I've done to date, that is really solid. Puts us in like bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2 range, which is amazing. Unfortunately, we would be turning off the Great Weapon Master feature as early as an enemy AC of 18 or better, because yeah, there is one thing that we are sorely lacking on this build that we are about to correct: the lack of consistent advantage. And so, at level 7, we are going back to Barbarian to rectify that, making us a Barbarian 2 so that we can get not just Danger Sense, which basically gives us advantage on dexterity saving throws, but more importantly, Reckless Attack, so we can have advantage on all of our strength-based attacks made this turn at the cost of giving enemies advantage on their attacks against us. And I mean, you guys know how I feel about this ability. One of the strongest in game, I think. And as far as the cost of giving enemies advantage on attacks against us, we've got a 14 armor class. We're gonna get hit regardless. It's why we have Rage, right? To reduce damage against us, primarily. Though the bonus damage we deal is nice. So yeah, a monk attacking recklessly. This is actually a fun and interesting concept. I'd love to hear how you might play this out with a character in-game. You're not really the quintessential inner peace monk, are you? Raging and reckless. Does your rage look controlled here? Are you simply giving in to like anger and hatred, embracing the dark side of the force, but still fighting with precision and control?
Use your aggressive feelings, boy. Let the hate flow through you.
I think it's a fun idea, and I'd love to see it play out in game. But with Reckless Attack secured, I want to go back to Monk at level 8, making us a Monk 6, because there are cool Way of the Serpent features I really want to get to. First, at Monk 6, we get Key Empowered Strikes. This just makes our attacks magical for the sake of overcoming resistance to non-magical attacks. So glad this is... oh, I can't really say that. Never mind. But then, yes, as a Way of the Serpent Monk, we get a feature here called Serpent Strikes. This gives us 3 new techniques we can use to augment our attacks, and we don't have to choose between them. We get all 3. First, Cobra Strike says that when a creature moves into our reach, we can use our reaction to make an attack against them. This was another reason I didn't want to take Polearm Master here, because it would make this feature a little redundant. So yeah, more chances at a reaction attack are great. We also get Python Strike, which says that when we hit a creature with an opportunity attack, we can make a stunning strike against them without spending a key point. I I love this, and it makes me super sad that my wisdom isn't higher. But also note, since Cobra Strike isn't specifically listed as an opportunity attack, just an attack we make with our reaction, these two things don't stack, right? Finally, we get Viper Strike here, my favorite actually, which says that once on our turn, when we hit with a melee weapon attack, we can spend a number of key points up to our proficiency bonus, so 3 for now, and if we do so, the attack will deal an extra d6 of poison damage plus 1d6 more for every key point spent. And the target is then poisoned until the end of our next turn. This is so great for like a Serpent themed subclass. It makes for a nice little on-demand Divine Smite-like ability that's cool if expensive. I considered trying to really build around this feature, making more of like a Nova or burst damage dealer, but I didn't feel like taking Fighter and maybe even Paladin dips to try and get the most out of like a melee Nova character, right? And I mean, of course, trying to multi-class Paladin and Monk is so difficult anyways due to ability score requirements. We could do it, but in the end, I think I'll just say, let's plan on using this Viper Strike when we crit. I've done this with sustained damage Paladin builds in the past, right? I'll just add double the d6s in damage when we crit, which now that we've got advantage will be almost 10% of the time, and that'll provide a little bit of a damage bump, looking at average sustained damage numbers. Yes, I know you're not always going to have the key to do this, and that sometimes you might not want to use this feature on a crit because it might be overkill, etc., etc. But I want to account for it in some way, and this is the way that makes the most sense to me. Oh, maybe let me add this here. I was this close to taking a couple of levels on this build of Hunt Domain Cleric from Heliana's Guide to Monsters, another third-party 5e compatible book from the people over at Loot Tavern. Mostly because the dudes called me out on the video they made about it to use the subclass. See here.
And your Flurry of Blowsing, that's 4 attacks with 2d6 extra damage each. And in addition to that,
8d6
yes,
extra damage.
And you have enough levels of Cleric that you can probably get something like Spirit Shroud or Spirit Guardians.
And Monk also wants Wisdom.
Yeah.
So you're
Colby did a pretty good Monk Cleric build a while ago. This might be a good subclass.
I want to see Colby take a look at this subclass and do some builds using this subclass and multiclassing with Rogue, Paladin, Fighter, Ranger, Monk.
This is good. This is a decent.
We don't usually talk about multiclassing in these videos.
Yeah.
But this is important.
But I also really wanted to use it because this Hunt Cleric gets some really powerful abilities. My favorite of which, their Channel Divinity, would let you, among other things, do max damage on a single hit. And coupled with this Viper Strike ability, that would be so fun and make for a really great round of Nova damage. But in the end, I decided against it because, if I'm being honest, I think the subclass is a little overpowered. Sorry, everyone over at Loot Tavern. I love you guys. And if it's allowed at your table, you should absolutely take a 2-level Hunt Cleric dip here and get a crazy bump, both to your sustained damage, actually. They basically get a concentration-free Hunter's Mark that would make Rangers weep with envy, and to your burst damage with their Channel Divinity. Plus, it'd let you have some fun Cleric spells to play around with. I guess I figure one third-party book is enough for one build, so we'll stick with Drakenheim today. Okay, at level 9, we would be a Monk 7, and that means we get Evasion. Everyone loves this ability. It lets us take half damage on a failed dexterity save to avoid things like fireballs, and no damage on a successful save. Sweet. We also get Stillness of Mind, and this ability lets us use our action to end a charmed or frightened effect on ourselves. It's a lot better in like the version of this that we get in the new player's handbook, and I kind of have a feeling that most people using 2014 run it the way that it basically shows up in the new player's handbook anyway, so yeah, nice way to get out of some nasty effects. At level 9, it is time for our next damage report. Since last check, we've gained advantage on our attacks, most importantly, added some extra damage, potentially when we crit. Let's say that we burn 3 key points in that scenario for a total of 8d6 damage on a crit, so that we can still have 4 points left to use Flurry of Blows every round. You know, that way in a 5-round combat encounter where we're raging as a bonus action on round 1, right? We'd still have enough to Flurry of Blows every round until the end. But then other than that, we've just picked up some nice utility and defensive and even control focused options to boot. But Against a 10 armor class here, we would on average do 65 damage per round, and against a 16 AC, it would be 51 DPR. And that is a solid 50% increase against low ACs, but we're basically double or even triple our damage at level 6 against those middle and high enemy ACs. And that, my friends, is the power of advantage. Compared to other sustained damage builds that I've done to date, we're kind of in the same place, bottom of tier 1, top of tier 2, which is a super solid place to be. But, okay, both monks and barbarians scale famously poorly in the 2014 rules of D&D 5e. Are we going to flatline? Let's find out. At level 10, we would be a monk 8, and that means we get another ability score increase or feat, letting us cap our strength at 20 here. That makes me super happy. This increases our hit chance and our damage on all 4 of the attacks that we're making each turn. At level 11, we'd be a monk 9, and that gives us an unarmored movement improvement, letting us run up walls and vertical surfaces and across liquids on our turn, which is super cool, but maybe not necessarily a big power boost. Yeah, these levels here are kind of the wasteland of monk power. Continuing with that theme, at level 12, we would be a monk 10, and that means we get purity of body, which makes us immune to disease and poison. I mean, that is a pretty solid defensive ability, if not a big booster of damage. Except, yes, for those of you who like to say things like, a dead monk does 0 damage. I don't know why you always do this with your arms when you say that. But I really wanted to get to monk 11, which we would get here at level 13, because that means we get more cool Serpent monk features. This time, we get a thing called Serpent stances, which I just absolutely adore. Actually, what the Dungeon Dudes did with this feature reminds me a lot of what we see Alan do for monks in DC 20, right? Or even Pathfinder, where monks get different stances that they can assume. It's super like kung fu movie awesome. Here we get 4 stances we can adopt at the start of our turn. No action required. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, we can swap out between stances every turn. We're not limited to like number of times we can use this or anything. First up, we've got Anaconda stance, which increases the reach of our melee weapon attacks and our unarmed strikes amazingly by 10 feet. So yeah, if you're using a polearm, your reach on those would be 20 feet now. Then we have Black Mamba stance, which lets you pretend like you got fouled every single time you touch the freaking basketball. Oh, sorry. Little Kobe Bryant joke for you there. Too soon. Couldn't help it. Big Jazz fan here. I know Dallin is so pissed right now.
A 60-point game for Kobe Bryant. The Lakers are going to win it. The Lakers are going to win it. What a performance. What an exit for number 24.
Anyways, no, Black Mamba says that once per turn, when you miss with a weapon attack, you can make an additional melee attack as part of the same action. I freaking love that. I mean, we already have advantage. If we somehow manage to miss, we'll get to attack again and again with advantage. I think that's the mathematical equivalent of just like rolling 4 d20s to try and hit once per turn, or close mathematically anyways, and that's better than Elven accuracy. Next up, Coatl stance. Am I saying that right? Coatl? I think I am. This just gives us a flying speed equal to our walking speed. Flying speed, always super handy. And again, usable kind of whenever we need it. So great. And then finally, Merilith stance, which says while using this stance, you can take 1 reaction on every turn in combat, instead of just once each round, right? Whoa. Okay, so this one is particularly awesome and unique and potentially super powerful. It makes me want to find a way to really take advantage of reactions more. I mean, we've already got that Cobra Strike feature. Now I want to get the Sentinel feat, maybe get some Battle Master maneuvers, maybe even just pick up a finesse weapon instead of a polearm and go rogue from this point on, so I can add sneak attack damage over and over and over again, right? With just reaction after reaction after reaction. It would be super fun to play around with. I think if I were building this character just for play at like level 11 and beyond, I would totally go that route. Since I was trying to make this character as powerful as possible throughout their career, and maybe especially because most campaigns don't go much past level 11, if they even get there at all, I decided to go the barbarian strength-based monk route here for easy advantage on our great weapon master attacks, but yeah, it is a fun feature to try and brainstorm and build around for sure. Don't forget, at monk 11, our unarmed strikes go up to a D8. Okay, time for our next damage report at level 13. Since last check, we have bumped our unarmed strike damage a smidge, capped our strength score, and then picked up these really fun stances. Question is, which one should I assume that we're using for sustainable damage? I think I'll go with old reliable Kobe Bryant, even though it makes me throw up in my mouth a little bit. Right, Black Mamba. Trying to figure out the math here is a little tricky. How much is this really going to increase our damage? I'm going to do my best. It's essentially just going to increase our chances of landing all of our attacks on our turn by a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and assume that with 11 levels of Monk now, we can go ahead and burn our max of 5 key points on a crit for Viper Strikes as well, giving us a whopping 12d6 extra damage in that scenario. Very nice. And as always, on top of all of that, we've picked up some nice utility and defensive options since last check as well. And so, against an enemy with a 10 armor class here, we would on average do 82 damage per round, and against a 17 AC, it would be 73 DPR. And again, a solid like 50% increase, give or take, over last check. Take that, crappy monk scaling! And yeah, I will say this about what Monty and Kelly have done with both of their monk subclasses for this book. They do a great job of countering the typical dearth of monk scaling by adding some super solid, powerful subclass features that really help make up for the pretty lackluster base monk subclass. Talking about the 2014 version, of course. 2024 monk, awesome. Anyways, great work on that front, dudes. Okay, at level 14, I mean, the next monk subclass feature, Supreme Serpent for us, doesn't come until monk level 17, and since we took some barbarian levels, and I only go to level 17 with these builds, we're not going to get there, right? It's a good feature. It lets us use 2 serpent stances at a time, so we could fly and get an extra attack on a miss, or have extra reach and a reaction every turn, right? Super cool, super fun, but since we're not going to get there, and since the base monk subclass really doesn't scale that well from this point on, aside from the very nice monk 14 feature, Diamond Soul, which you should seriously consider going for, I'm going to say then let's go back to Barbarian here, because that would give us our primal path, our Barbarian subclass, and I want to be a giant. Or at least a Path of the Giant Barbarian. My new favorite subclass for barbarians for sure, when we're talking 2014 anyways. Path of the World Tree is awesome. But it will give us a little damage bump eventually. Better than we'd get by just sticking with Monk anyways. So, as a Giant Barbarian, we get a couple features here. Giant's Power lets us learn Giant or another language if we already know it, and then the Druidcraft or Thaumaturgy cantrip. Giant's Havoc is my favorite thing here. It says that when we rage, we can add the rage damage bonus to a thrown weapon attack using strength. Okay, fine, we're not going to really use that, but then we grow. Our stature becomes large, our reach increases by 5 feet, and just consider, I mean, we've got 15 feet of reach now with our polearms, 25 feet if we put ourselves in Anaconda stance. Makes me really wish I would have gone Bugbear for like 30 feet of reach. That'd be awesome. But also, this character was already a great grappler thanks to Rage's advantage on strength checks, but now we can grapple huge creatures or smaller. I mean, what makes more sense thematically than a serpent-themed character who puts enemies in a python-like squeeze?
Anaconda squeeze!
If only our weapon attacks weren't so dang potent, I'd be more interested in trying to build around grappling here. Anyways, at level 15, we would be a Barbarian 4, and that means we get another ability score increase for feat, and I think I would probably go, Sentinel here to potentially let me take advantage of all the extra reaction attacks I might get if I put myself in Merilith stance, since Sentinel not only lets you reduce an enemy's move speed to 0 when you hit them with an opportunity attack, right? But also gives you a reaction attack if an enemy within 5 feet of you attacks someone other than you. Sadly, in 2014, that attack isn't considered an opportunity attack, just like the Cobra Strike, right? Regardless, I feel like since we get a reaction attack when someone leaves our reach, and also when someone enters our reach as a Serpent Monk, right? And now, with Sentinel, when they attack someone other than us, we should maybe start making an assumption about how often we're getting an extra attack in a round with our reaction. It's always hard to know what to put this percentage at. There are some things with this build that might temper that percentage a bit as well. First of all, we've got a huge range, right? Especially with our polearms. We don't have to grow when we rage or use Anaconda stance, right? If we did though, we'd probably be getting fewer opportunity attacks than normal because enemies wouldn't actually leave our reach until they got pretty far away. Also, since we are recklessly attacking with a crap AC, we're probably going to look like a pretty juicy target to be hitting, right? So they're going to be attacking us more often than our friends, kind of negating some of the coolness of Sentinel. So with all of that considered, let's just assume a fairly low 20% chance that we get a reaction attack on our turn. How about? Oh, and don't forget that rules as written, barbarians don't get to use reckless attack on reaction attacks, since it only works on our turn. Thankfully, that is changing in 2024. I know I can say that because they've talked about barbarians. Do we need a new drinking game? Take a drink every time I talk about the new player's handbook? No, you would be totally plastered by now. But I think most tables allow for advantage to continue even during reactions already, right? But something to bring up with your DM if you're not sure. As an aside, I also think taking Resilient Wisdom would be a great feat here as well. It would round us off to a 14 Wisdom and give us Wisdom saving throw proficiency, which is a really important one. So yeah, consider that instead of Sentinel. Okay, at level 16, we would be a Barbarian 5, and that means we get fast movement. This increases our move speed by 10 feet, and if we're not wearing heavy armor. And yeah, no reason this couldn't stack with our bonus monk move speed. So at this level, we would be sitting at a 60-foot move speed with a potential massive reach and even an ability to fly. Nobody is getting away from us. And we also get extra attack. Woohoo! Alas, they don't stack. Boohoo. But then finally for us, at level 17, we would be a Barbarian 6, and that means we get Elemental Cleaver as a giant barbarian. This is really the main, mechanical reason I wanted to get back to Barbarian. Take it to 6, because, yeah, this feature says that when we rage, we can infuse our weapon with acid, cold, fire, lightning, or thunder, causing the weapon to deal that kind of damage, and do an extra d6 of that kind of damage on every attack that we make with the weapon. It also gains the thrown property if we need to chuck it at someone, since it automatically returns to our hand if we do, similar to the Artificer's returning weapon infusion. And so, at 17, we have arrived at our final damage report. Since last check, we've gained an extra d6 of damage thanks to our Elemental Cleaver feature, and I'll say a 20% chance for an additional weapon attack using our reaction each round. Oh, and an extra 2d6 on a crit thanks to Viper Strikes and our proficiency bonus increasing, right? And then some nice utility and defense and control potential we've added as well. But against an enemy with a 10 armor class here, we would now on average do 99 damage per round, and against an 18 AC, it would be 88 DPR. There's that lack of scaling we've been looking for in our monk barbarian. I mean, hey, it's still a decent little increase since last check. So close to breaking that century mark, but yeah, compared to other sustained DPR builds that I've done to date, I'm gonna call this bottom of tier 2, maybe top of tier 3. So definitely some slipping here, but still a solid place to be. Let's break this down with some final thoughts. The tier score for this build, if you take the damage that they do at each of the armor classes we calculate for, at each of the 4 damage reports, and just average it all into one big number, we end up with a 55, which puts us middle of tier 2, not surprisingly, but quite happily. So yeah, this build isn't doing as much damage as the Arcane Hand Monk build was capable of doing anyways. So, surprise, spells are good in D&D 5e, right? But yeah, I would argue that this character brings a level of tankiness and frontline grapply control to the battlefield that the Arcane Hand Monk lacked. And it's pretty powerful, flavorful, and fun in its own right, no doubt. I love it. I want to play it and fulfill that polearm using kung fu master fantasy that you really can't do without this subclass. And I know I've been talking about it a lot throughout the video, but especially if we can incorporate 2024 rules into the mix with this build, which if you're watching this video 6, 7, 8 weeks from the time that it releases, you can. And, both barbarians and especially I think monks are getting some fantastic mechanical buffs with the 2024 handbook. As much as I'd love to just talk about all of the myriad ways that this build would benefit from those new rules, at the time that I'm recording this, a ton of that stuff is still under embargo from Wizards of the Coast. So even though I've had a copy of the new player's handbook for quite some time, and I'm just salivating with how much better this build would be thanks to all the buffs both of these classes are getting, among other things, my hands are a little bit tied. But maybe by the time this video is released, a lot of that info will already be publicly available. I myself will most assuredly be sharing all of the differences between the 2014 and the 2024 classes and subclasses just as soon as I possibly can. Those are going to be the very first videos that I release once we get the green light from Wizards of the Coast to do so. So stay tuned to my channel here so you can catch those as soon as I drop them. Click on that notifications bell, right? But until then, just know that, yeah, this build is going to be so much stronger once we've got access to the new rules, and I, for one, cannot wait. So I want to give a huge thanks to Monty and Kelly. You guys are so freaking awesome, and you've done such great work with all of your Drakenheim stuff. So everybody watching, don't forget to check the video description for a link to pick up those Drakenheim books, and don't forget about their third Drakenheim book, Monsters of Drakenheim, which is in development now, but for which you can still make a late Kickstarter pledge. So that's the video for the week. I hope you guys know that I love you. I do. Thank you so much for all that you do for me, for the channel. I love what I get to do for a living, and it wouldn't be a living without you, so thanks. I hope that you have a fantastic day and a really great week, and if you don't, I hope that you'll hang in there. Please don't give up. I hope that you will do good and be kind, and that I see you again very soon. But until then, take care. Bye. Someday I'll wish upon a star, wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where trouble melts like lemon drops, high above the chimney top. That's where you'll find me, oh, somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. No offense to Judy Garland, but for sure Iz's version of Somewhere Over the Rainbow is the definitive one, right? Does anybody know any other songs by Israel? I only know that one. I oughta check out what else he's done. He's got the most amazing voice in the world. I'm trying a new lighting setup. For those of you who are in the in the know, let me know. It's not very different. It's just kind of slightly off to the side as opposed to right on. I think it gives it a kind of a softer look a little bit. Trying it out. See what I think. Okay, the mic wars have begun. I've been messing with this thing for like 15 minutes. So I guess they actually began a while ago. I'm hoping that I've got it to a place where it's good. Finally. Man, I feel rusty. I know that I actually I didn't end up skipping a single week of video because of the extra one that I did while I was on vacation. But I actually haven't recorded like here in the office anyways. It's been almost a month. It's been like 3 weeks. Feeling a little rusty. Hopefully Dallin doesn't pay the price for that. If so, sorry Dallin. Who could use I gotta get a new boom. Oh, it either drifts up or it drifts down. Probably just be okay with having the mic in the shot, right? That would be probably the easiest. Whatever, good enough. If I close one eye, I can tell if it's rising or sinking. It looks like it's staying still, but then it just makes just the most imperceptible movements. Oh, whatever. What did I just say? And I cannot get the mic to stand still to save my life. I think that I've got it fixed, and then I don't, and then I cry. Please, please, this is just the one place you won't stay. It's sinking. No! No! We're going to fight this mic, though. This is moving more quickly. Why is my thing scrolling so fast? Fight with the mic, fight with the teleprompter. Why I gotta be fighting with everything? But that might be changing in 2024. Oh, can I say that yet? I don't know if I can talk about any of these things. I think I probably can. But... against an enemy with intent, but